Hi, welcome. I've got my tiny little window of opportunity here where I can do a layout and turn the heater down and not have it affect the temperature in here for the next like 24 hours. It's kind of a delicate operation, but I miss doing readings at my altar, and I realize my back is to my altar, but this is where I feel most at home doing readings, so thank you for being here. I didn't set a lot of intention for this layout, mainly just a gratitude layout for people that have been following my work and enjoying it and supporting me, either through a GoFundMe that I started so I could go to a social work conference where I'm actually going to highlight the esoteric work that I do, because some of that I can bring into my sessions with clients who are interested in tarot and art therapy and such. And so I appreciate you being here and just wanted to thank you. I know these are really freaky times, and especially if you live in the United States, it's a scary time for many people. And I'm sending love and solidarity. La solidaridad es nuestra arma, ¿verdad? En estos tiempos de preocuparnos mucho para nuestros amigos, amistades, familia, todo. Entonces, muchísimas gracias por estar aquí. Estoy luchando adelante de ustedes y también en mi corazón. Y forgive me, my Spanish fails me at times, but I do speak Spanish. And I'm just sending you lots of love. Te quiero un montón. Te quiero muchísimo, amigos y amigas y amantes y amistades muy profundos, ¿ok? Y lo siento, como dije, que a veces mi español me falta y no tengo tantas oportunidades ahora para practicar como antes a mi español. Pero gracias, ¿ok? Thank you so much. I just want to do a general reading for us. I'm going to continue using Frank's deck because I love it, and it's become a very important part of my layouts. So I'm going to be doing just a general tetractys spread. And we'll just get a nice, maybe some guidance for how we can cope. I've been really torn right now about how to deal with my meta services, because I really don't want to support Mark Zuckerberg anymore. I had been off Facebook for several years and had deactivated the account, and I'm now on the verge of deleting it. I had kind of just gotten back on there to reconnect with some people, but it's really gone downhill in the last several years that I was gone, and why support him if I don't have to? So... But I also, part of me is like, I don't want him to get to have authority over who I stay connected with, even though he does. So I don't know. I'm torn about it. I can't decide. But I started downloading all my pictures that were only there anymore, that I wanted to keep, so that I could feel free to delete when I felt ready to, if I decided to. So I've already done that, which is a nice feeling. So now if and when I decide to delete it, I won't have any stress, because I've already saved everything off there image-wise that I want. And deleting Instagram will be a different story. I don't know if I'll do that. A lot of the pages, the radical pages that I follow, are still on Instagram, so I might kind of hang in there as long as they are. And I also highly recommend Blue Sky. I got overwhelmed when everybody started their mass migration over there. I was a little bit of a latecomer to it. I wasn't in the first wave, but nevertheless, once people started coming over in the millions, I got flooded and overwhelmed and paranoid for a little while about weird accounts following me, but try to not live in fear, right? A little bit of paranoia is good for you, but a lot is, hobbling. It doesn't serve, at some point. So what might be a good message for us today, or when you happen to catch this reading? My readings are timeless, but often I'm doing them in a lunar cycle or whatever, so they do have relevance to that current lunar cycle when I'm reading. But anytime you catch it, my intent is that it will have meaning for you. What's important for us to know right now? What would be useful information for us to know? general reading. Ooh. Interesting. Looks like someone's facing a choice. Ooh. But you have everything you need to make this choice. But what I'm picking up right here is that the choice itself is causing you a little bit of paralysis and feeling of entrapment. And, you know, some decisions are like that. They can feel impossible to make. So let's just get into it, and let's just tap in and see what is happening. So in the cornerstone, you might be getting ready to travel, or you are traveling towards a success of some kind. The Chariot's a very hopeful card, but it's also a card that in Platonic philosophy speaks to the light and dark horse within us and our responsibility as people having an experience on the earth plane to channel, or not channel, but maybe channel, but direct and charioteer our light and dark horse within us, our light aspect of self and our shadow aspect of self. So that kind of philosophical idea is present here. And it can also, in the mundane world, mean that you're literally about to go on a trip. You might be feeling a little bit trapped in the realm of relationships, and relationships that are close to your heart. You might be feeling confused and imprisoned and unsure right now about who is for you. And that's not unusual. You know, in fact, I was channeling right before I started this layout. As a therapist, I usually try to help people when they're coming to me for help with managing relationships or understanding their relationships. You can kind of caution people away from scorekeeping. Like if you're really trying to approach a relationship from a humble and healthy place, scorekeeping with each other can get a little bit toxic, right? Like, well, last time you did this, and like keeping a tally in your score in your mind of fair and unfair, right and wrong, who did what to who, and keeping score. That's just a shorthand phrase. Is called keeping score. But as I was getting ready to do this reading, I started thinking, you know, at a time like this, it's not such a bad idea to kind of keep score on your relationships in your life, because major world events like this, like the election of Trump and the appointment of an openly Nazi fascist to a high-level government position, it is a time to kind of be keeping score and keeping track of like who really seems like they are willing to show up for me and have my back, who's willing to take a risk for me, who's willing to speak out for me, who's willing to support me monetarily if I'm broke and in need, right? Who's looking the other way, who doesn't want to put themselves out or be uncomfortable. And I'm not saying it needs to be black and white, but it very much can be for many people. Where you want to be keeping track of like who's really got your back at a time like this. Although I will just say as a qualifier to that having someone's back can look a lot of different ways. For example, if you have a friend who has a disability that impacts their physicality, maybe having a demand that they show up for you in the streets is not fair, right? So that's where scorekeeping can get risky and unhealthy. But I also want to just put out there to play devil's advocate a little bit that at a time like this, scorekeeping can be life-saving, and especially saving of your psyche. If you have a lot of exposure online to people who secretly are reveling in the fact that you feel vulnerable right now, you don't want that energy in your sphere, in your auric field at all, including at a distance, just looking on with their gaze and feeling that way towards you. That can create energetic entanglement that's bad for you, or that's like, I mean, the other term for that is evil eye, right? So in my opinion, I channeled that before, but I forgot until it's, I'm looking at this layout that I wanted to mention that. Okay, so for someone here, or for all of us in this collective, we're moving towards an inner experience of managing our light and dark horse on our own side of things. We're also feeling trapped and confused a little bit about our relationships. So it's not surprising. This can be one-on-one outside of the world of politics, or if you're very engaged as a social justice activist, it can be in the realm of community as well, right? Either one. And then in the facts position, sorry, I'm noticing all this cat hair and stuff on my card table. In the facts position is the Queen of Wands. So you are kind of in a creative place for yourself where you're trying to create the new. You're trying to move forward with an integration of your light and dark, your shadow self and your conscious self, right? You're trying to do healthy manifestation for relationships that are for you. You don't want to feel trapped anymore in relationships that don't feel fully supportive of you. That's coming through very strongly. The choice is going to be difficult, and this really can be true, for example, in families. When something seems to have fractured your family and is making you forced to make a choice, right? Or your friendships. This can also be like in the military or a war-torn area, right? Where you're having to make choices about, can I really still maintain my connection with this person? Because yeah, maybe they're blood, but they are cheering on my downfall. They're praying on my downfall. They might not literally be praying for your death or something, right? You never know. And so in times like this, that kind of stuff becomes very real. As much as our defense mechanisms may not want to acknowledge that, like denial and wanting to see the best in people, times like this really force us to look at it and see the truth about certain relationships. As difficult as it is, it's very true. And the choice you're presented with right now is feeling like a vulnerability to you about whose relationships have me trapped in an old paradigm, whose relationships want for my liberation and my joy and my happiness, and celebrate what I'm creating and don't dismiss it, right? Like that's something I've had to struggle with, because this kind of work is not the bulk of my friendships and relationships don't get down with this kind of stuff, or they like it, but they're not as into it as me. So a lot of times I felt a little bit alone on this journey, because it's a little bit of a different kind of creativity than the typical, like you can come out and watch my show, or you can come to my visual art show, right? Like this is a YouTube channel reading cards. That's not the world of a lot of my friends. So that's been something I've had to kind of not be defensive about on a personal level. That's just an example. I've had to recognize this doesn't have to be for everyone. It's okay. It's for me. I'm doing this for me as much as I'm doing it to serve people who love this kind of esotericism. It's a spiritual practice. This is the Hanged One. That's the very center, the very heart of this tetractys, is that making this decision or decisions around relationships of the heart of the cups realm, it's a spiritual practice. It's not easy. It's the Hanged One experience can feel very brutal and like a rite of passage. And like you might be wondering at times, am I going to survive this? I've definitely had this in my close relationships, feeling attacked, feeling like, wait a second now I have to reassess. Does this person really support me? Or are they going to lash out at me every time they get drunk? Are they going to lash out every time I touch on something that hurts their inner child, right? Like, and then it forces you to reassess. I'm not perfect. I'm not human. I'm going through this very thing right alongside many people in this collective. And it's not something not something that's comfortable, but it's really, really good for our spiritual growth to do this kind of work. It's saying don't shy away from this. You go deep within and really soul search, right? About these relationships. Has this person supported me, or has this person secretly cheered me on when I'm struggling, or like reveled in the fact that I'm struggling? Or have they cheered me on when I'm struggling? That can be hard to look at. It really can be hard to face. Denial is a protective mechanism that keeps us from doing that until there's real risks to our safety or our livelihood or whatever, and then we're forced to do that. In the strength position is that by doing this work, we come into more of a balance of give and take in the material world, where we're not feeling drained by people who take and don't give back, or where we're the taker and surrounding ourselves with people who are fatigued and tired of giving to us because all we do is take, right? I mean, everybody gets into an imbalance like this at one time or another. But doing this kind of inner process and being willing to face these challenges and recreate something new for ourselves, it's very healthy to do so. And it brings us into a balanced scale where in our material world, we feel a healthy balance. And I'm just talking to my friend that's going to house sit for me. They're really broke and I'm really broke. For me to even go on the trip that I'm going on, I had to start a GoFundMe. They're very broke as well. So we were kind of joking about that way that when broke people just trade the same 20 bucks back and forth, loaning it to each other, right? Like I'm giving them some cash for house sitting, but I was saying I wish I had more to give. And you'll find that sometimes, that at times like this, it's poor and economically struggling people that are the ones that are willing to help each other. And then the people that are billionaires resent anyone even being in their field of vision that is struggling. It's like they'd rather not see it. They'd rather we all just go away. The people who are not the millionaire and billionaire class, right? It's very sad. But being willing, I know this is a little heavy-handed, but I can't help it. I live in the United States, and that's part of who I am, is somebody who's very committed to social justice. So this layout might not be for everyone. But being willing to do that work, it's our strength, and it brings us into a far more balanced and just dynamic in all of our relationships by being willing to do that. The devil on our shoulder might be feeling like we're having to fend off a lot of attacks and a lot of people who are not for us and a lot of people who feel like they're directly threatening us. And our devil is saying, like, let's bring down the kibosh on them, right? This can be where you got to watch out that you don't become like them to some degree. Boundaries is one thing, but if you're starting to like call for the destruction of other people, that's another, right? You've got to kind of be, again, willing to do the light and dark coursework within. The devil on our shoulder might be feeling and telling you there's threats around you everywhere. No one can be trusted. No one is safe. Defend against everything at all costs, right? And getting you into that kind of paranoia. I can easily go there. When I was getting inundated with followers on Blue Sky, it seemed like every other follower I was just blocking because they don't have an option to set yourself to like private yet or whatever. So I didn't want weird eyes that I got a weird vibe from following me. So I was just blocking, but it started being like, okay, wait a minute. Am I being paranoid here or do I have reason, right? So it's that kind of energy. There might be parts of your psyche that are whispering, you can't trust anyone these days. You can't trust anyone. And if you start really listening to a voice like that, it can prompt you to do things that are not right, right? Like, in Rwanda, okay, something like that. The angel on your shoulder is saying this is an opportunity for a new beginning. If I'm willing to do this work, it's the kind of courage that the Fool begins on the Fool's journey at the very beginning of the tarot. It's the very, very beginning. It's the step into the brand new. The angel on your shoulder understands that if you have the courage to do this work, it will bring you into this kind of fresh, exciting new energy where you're on a whole new journey and a whole exciting time, right? For you, full of optimism, full of hope. The vulnerability is that it can be a little naive, but my sense is that this is the wisdom of a new beginning that embraces naivety as an opportunity to learn something new. Okay, so that's coming through. Really cool. And then where the energy is headed is an inner process. The Hermit card has been coming up a lot. I'm a little tired of Hermit energy because I've been in Hermit energy now. I'm a Hermit by nature, and I've definitely been in this energy dominantly for like the last 5 years. So I'm tired of going within, but I'll listen, I'll humble myself, and I'll continue to go within because it's a worthwhile pursuit. It's a spiritual pursuit, like the Hanged One energy is. The Hanged One is self-imposed. Nothing did this to the Hanged One. The Hanged One put themselves in the hanging tree position in order to experience the inner process of spiritual transformation, right? And the Hermit is that similar kind of process. It's having the courage and the willingness to keep going within and examining our own shadow, double checking on paranoia, right? Getting paranoia in check as needed, but also giving too open of a heart. Not that an open heart is bad, but maybe too open of a book, the book of you, for example, that can be risky, right? So this might be teaching you the discernment. If you're too open and too trusting, going within might teach a little bit better of a discerning lens or a discerning antenna, right? And also knowing your own shadow and what you might be vulnerable to. I've done a lot of work to get acquainted with my shadow. It's uncomfortable at times to face yourself, especially things I did when I was younger. I often would stand up for the underdog in school, but I was mean at times. Like I remember one time sending a fake love note to someone, And then as soon as he opened it and it registered that it was fake, it wasn't just me, it was me and a friend. We thought it would be funny. And it's a horrible memory for me. I feel terrible every time I remember. But it's just, I say it to illustrate, like, I don't do this from a high horse, right? Like, I know I'm not perfect. I know I had inner work to do. I told a story on another reading about I had kept all of my notes that I passed back and forth between me and friends all through middle and high school. Every so often I would go through them and it would be fun. But as I got older and matured and would go through them like every 5 years and read some, I became more and more uncomfortable because it became more and more clear to me that I was sometimes the cruel one. Not always. I did a lot of good things as a kid too, standing up for an underdog, but sometimes I was mean and I had to face that. My dad was mean to animals, and as a very little kid, I inherited that for a minute until I understood even as a child that I didn't want to be mean to animals. And it wasn't anything egregious, but it was enough that when I think back on it, it's upsetting. But it's because I had a bad model. My dad had unhealed wounds in him that translated into that for him, like it does for many people. And let's face it, we're in a culture that doesn't respect animal life or regard animal life in the West. We treat animals like commodities or things for us to move around on a chessboard as we see fit. And part of my healing has been to develop a relationship with St. Francis. And that came through in a meditation I was doing earlier, was that I might start doing the prayer to St. Francis as a way to honor animal life. As it is now, I send Reiki to the natural world as a way to thank and try to help the natural world heal from the abuses that we've caused as a species, right? So it could be something like that. When you know better, do better, right? Like, there's no need to wither in shame over past mistakes, although I admit it's hard sometimes if you feel like it's a really bad mistake or way that you really hurt someone. That fake love note is a great example. Every time I remember that memory, I feel horrible and wish I could go back and apologize. But then I have to think, is that about me or them? Do you think they would really appreciate an apology, or would they rather just not hear from you and not be reminded of that, right? So that's kind of my journey with stuff like that. It's important to have the courage to look at those things. And I try to do that and maybe share that here just so I don't seem like I am thinking I'm some teacher for you. I have to do the work too, right? We all do. What else? I was going to maybe do some scrying, but first I'm going to pull some more cards here. What else is important to know about... Oh, I know what I was going to do. I was going to pull some of mine here. What's important to know about this Hermit Hanged One process? The other major arcana is the Fool and the Chariot. So like it's saying, by being willing to do that, it's going to accelerate your spiritual growth and almost like catapult you into your new version of self that's even more healed and integrated, right? Which is a good thing if you're on a spiritual path or a soul's growth or even just a psychological growth. It doesn't have to be spiritual. We have a conscience, right? We don't need a spiritual guru to tell us how to be good if we listen to our conscience. What else is important about the Hermit and the Hanged One process for us to know right now? Medicine of laughter. So when it gets a little heavy and intense, it can be helpful to remember to laugh. My friend and I, the one that I was talking to about trading the $20 back and forth, we had a laugh just even thinking about the movie Idiocracy, right? And that movie's been around for quite a while now, but it's funny to remember and to help us laugh at some of the, like, I don't know what the fuck you want to call it, dangerous direction we're going in the United States, right? But it helps to laugh. It helps to laugh about it. King of the Hill is another great one because King of the Hill embraces all parts of the community. The conservative Texan, right? The indigenous person, the cross-racial affair between the veteran and the it's just, I don't know. It's stuff like that can help us see our follies, right? See and be able to laugh at ourselves and not take ourselves so seriously as we go through a process like that. Humor is a very much a part of that, of soul's growth. turning it over to fate. So recognizing what we can and can't control. Going within can help be a really big and helpful reminder that we're not God. We have the light of God or spirit or consciousness or the universe within us, the stardust within us. And that can help us remember that there is something much bigger than us. It's really easy to get in your own head and feel like every moment of your personal life is life and death. And when you can remember to step outside of that and remember something bigger than you, it can help. It can help alleviate some of the burden that you might start feeling, like it all rests on you. It doesn't all rest on us. It rests on bigger forces. For example, we're inhabiting only a small portion of the planet and the rest are the oceans. That's just one example, right? Yes, we've had a horrible impact on the oceans, but you think there can't be a flood that comes in and wipes us all out? It's been done before, right? Or an illness or something. The earth knows how to put itself back in balance at some point, including from us if we're causing too much destruction. And that can be an idea of comfort, as scary as it is, right? Let go of your timeline. Trust the natural flow of nature and patience. That can be something helpful when you're doing this kind of inner work. It can often feel like, when am I going to be done? I have felt that way many times in the last 5 years because it has been so brutal. I've cried myself to sleep many nights. I lost a relationship over it. I got married and divorced, right? That was about 5 years ago now, but that was part of what kicked it all off, right? It was not a pleasant process to realize I can't perform in this relationship like I thought I could. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. And not only is it better for me to step out, it's going to be more fair to the other person. In spite of the fact that it hurts both of us now, it was being authentic to me. Being to my own self, I was being true, right? And that was hard. I had to let go of my timeline and trust the natural flow of my healing process, and that I am going to come through. I'm going to come through this wiser, graduated, and ready for the fresh start, right? Get your house in order, cleanse your space, and clear out clutter. That's that inner work. And it can be in the mundane, cleaning your home, sweeping the floor, cleansing the cobwebs, getting rid of things that bog you down and that clutter the mind. That is a spiritual practice, right? That's a very meditative practice. And actually I've been doing that as well, because I had to reduce over several years down to like where I live in a very small space, and I really have minimal stuff anymore compared to most Americans, right? What's another thing? What's another information for us? Maybe from the Crowley deck. What else is some advice for you? Queen of Wands again. So the Queen of Wands is important here. That's the fire of creation in the feminine aspect of self. What are you creating? Sorry about the heater. I turned it way down, but it's still going to come on, you know, because I didn't want to turn it off. I know how fucking loud it is, though. It's like it takes over, and then I have to talk over it on this video. But that's, you know, a very minor problem. I start making it global because I want this to be perfect, and I have to let go of that, right? It's not a thing I should focus on. It's not a big deal. I don't need to get all in a twist over it, right? What else is some good advice? The Chariot again, boom. This is a really powerful process if you have the courage to take it on. Going within and healing your own self and healing your shadow is community care and community work. If you're out there trying to organize and you haven't done any shadow work, you can replicate and cause harm, you know, truly. What else is some advice? Adjustment. This represents Ma'at. This represents Libra. This represents the scales of justice, right? This is a very powerful major arcana compared to the Six of Pentacles, which is the same energy. A recalibration and a rebalancing of self relative to the outside world, relative to what you value, relative to the relationships that you want to keep in your life, and where you recognize, nope, some of these relationships have been holding me back, and I can cut a cord and set a boundary, and that's okay. It's not easy though, especially when people don't accept what you're saying and push back. Then that can have its own, you know, now what? Now what am I going to do? I'm trying to set a boundary or have a limit with this person and they're pushing back. So now what, right? But that's what it teaches you, what you're made of. Know that this is a balancing, calibrating process for you is very helpful. Yeah. Be willing to have an open heart of this Princess of Cups. Be willing to be in that naive, fool-like, hopeful and optimistic energy in the realm of the heart. And that can help balance this Queen of Wands fire energy, the fire of truth, right? The fire of inception and creativity. Having this Princess of Cups on board is very cooling to this fire, right? And can be helpful so that you don't maybe do overkill, right? That's great information. What else? What else should we know about this? And then I think I will do some scrying to see what comes through, because I'm curious. Why not? I might as well, and I've been really loving doing it. Part of the channeled message was the benefits, the pros and cons of keeping score in relationships. It might be a beneficial process right now, as long as you're trying to attempt that from a fair and just place yourself, right? The Creator. It's a caprice, it's called Vic's Caprice Rose, and it's an old garden rose here. And I love that it's kind of multicolored, like the Light and Dark Horse. It's red and white. So it's being willing to look at all aspects of self and create something new for this full energy that you're stepping into by doing so. The Citizen, like I was just saying, it helps you become a more balanced and whole citizen of the community around you if you're willing to do your shadow work and not, you know, it's hard. Leftists and liberals, especially white liberals, white people are used to being treated as the knowers in Western society. We're the ones that know, and we teach others because of white supremacy, which is a fallible, it's not right. It's not an accurate way of viewing the world. And race was created by white supremacists. The concept of race, right, was created by white supremacists. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. It was created by colonizers. It's not me being a lib saying that. This is factual scientific information. And this is saying by being willing to humble ourselves as white folks, for example, because that's where the work is for me. I'm not here to teach everyone. I have to try to remain humble even doing these readings. And I get aggravated when I see other white readers start to take on that tone, even though we were taught to do that, right? White supremacy harms us, and we were taught to perceive ourselves as the ones that know and that have to tell others, well, wrong, that's not accurate. We have our lens, other people have their lens. We are not the knowers, but our whole education system was designed for that. And so unlearning that and learning again how to truly be a good citizen to people around us, that's a hard job for white people. We don't like to humble ourselves. And white is a construct, right? Like I'm Eastern and Western European, white is an illusion because race is an illusion, right? It's not real. It's a construct that was made up by people in order to create power structures that are out of balance, right? So being willing to do that kind of work is being willing to humble yourself and check yourself and watch your own microaggressions towards other people and watch like, no, I don't want to have a colonizer mindset. I want to decolonize my mind. I don't want to be in that mode. I have to check myself because I like doing this work. I've been in a teaching mode in my life in the past, and I'm not a teacher, right? I am being taught as much as I teach something that I might know, right? I'm being taught all the time by people around me who know more about things than I do in certain subjects, right? Be willing to be humble. Be willing to surrender your will to a greater thing, right? Whether that's the community consciousness, whatever, right? Be willing to humble your will and your ego, right? It's very hard work, but we all have to be willing to do that if we want a healthier, more just society. Yeah, the Outsider. The Duchess of Edinburgh Rose. It's a modern garden rose. So this can help you if you are willing to go within, do the inner shadow work. It can help you go from the outside in, right? From feeling like you're on the outside of this changing world that's freaking you out and you don't understand where you stand in it, especially if you're white and a white male. You're not going to be left behind, okay? There's all this paranoia. I remember one time raising, well, I'm not going to identify who it was because I don't want to shame anyone, but they were trying to sell the idea that, oh my gosh, if African diaspora people get in power, they're going to enslave us, meaning the white folks, right? Which is a completely insane and paranoid. It's just ridiculous, right? It's a ridiculous notion. But people go around thinking like that. It means being willing to understand where you are an outsider and get comfortable with it. If I'm in a circle of justice workers and I'm a cis white woman and the other folks around me are not like me and don't look like me, that doesn't mean I'm in danger, okay? It doesn't mean that I lose. In fact, it means I win. If I can open up to their perspectives and humble myself to be taught, and grateful to them for teaching me to help me decolonize my mind, right? It's not humiliating. It's humility at the soul level that says, and the ego level that says, my ego has been driving things and I want to dismantle my own ego as much as possible, right? If you're on a spiritual journey, especially. So sorry, now I can even see, I can feel myself getting preachy, and it's because I get aggravated with people, honestly, when they don't want to humble themselves. But that's still part of my own ego, right? So I need to name that here. I'm not immune. I get caught up into my own ego struggles. What else? What else for us here? And then I am going to grab my quartz so that I can do some scrying here, and we'll see what comes through with that. But first I wanted to pull one of these Lantern Oracle cards that are really beautiful. What's some other advice that helps us wrap this reading up? Yeah, and forgive me, I can even feel in my own energy that I was starting to get preachy. I hope it comes through that it's preachy to other white, meaning white people that may not like thinking like that, but they're like, yeah, it's true. We don't like being called out. European ancestry folks don't like being called out, but that's doing our shadow work as citizens of a greater community. We're not the center of the world, and we were just as lied to about the fact that we are, right? We have to undo that and unpack that at times. But beating people over the head isn't always the most effective, and I could feel myself starting to do that. At the bottom is circles, and I love this image. I don't know how well you can see that. It's not the card I pulled, though, but it's at the bottom of the deck, and I just wanted to acknowledge it. This beautiful horse and this community. I've never pulled that card, but it looks really meaningful for some reason here. Maybe I will read it if I feel called to, but this is the card I pulled. Radical Curiosity, and it's card number 2. And it's this beautiful, beautiful little one with the sword of truth, having the fearless courage to do the work here. Look at that little one. I just love it. It's very childlike. It's childlike energy like the Fool and like this Princess of Cups, right? It's being willing to acknowledge, I don't know everything. I have a lot to learn. I'm willing to be in childlike fool status that says I am naive in certain areas, and I'm going to open up to that and be okay with it, right? That's what I'm channeling. Now let's see what she says in her description of card number 2, Radical Curiosity. Seeing as if for the first time, every time. The maiden sees with wonderment. The mystery and majesty of nature enthrall her and inspire the music she creates. Her presence reminds us to resume looking at the ever-changing world with the openness of a child. For the world's beauty and enchantment can be seen at every age, if and when we remember to access our inner magical and childlike perspective. The maiden is alive with the potent energy of raw inspiration. She reminds us of what it feels like to be radically curious about where an idea might lead. She experiences the world as a globe of magical unknowns to be explored. Curiosity runs through her veins as limitless energy. She creates her music from one inspiring idea to the next, this Queen of Wands. She cannot anticipate the outcome of any tune she is exploring how to create, nor does she necessarily have the self-discipline or regard for any elder's caution or advice on what is and what is not possible. So, right? That's the little thread of warning in there. The maiden's curiosity is wild and radical. She accepts and understands no limitation, nor does she refrain from venturing into the vast landscape of her imagination. She is without presumption, judgment, anticipation, or in need of validation for her creation. Therefore, she fears no disappointment, rejection, or failure. Naivety frees her to boldly follow what she is inspired to express and immerse herself in the joy of expressing it. The maiden reminds you that you always have the power to change a routine that stifles your ability to see life with the excitement, possibility, and magic of a child. She encourages the reawakening of your innate radical curiosity and openness. May you enjoy a return to your fresh and unique perspective. May you also allow yourself to express what inspires you creatively. Radical curiosity is the maiden's alchemy, and yours too. Radical curiosity inspires creativity. My God, it is so beautiful. I have chills. It's that very energy. The Princess of Cups and the Queen of Wands, having the fearless willingness to create. I just love it. It's so cool. It's really amazing. So now I will go ahead and do a little bit of scrying here before I close. This feels so good to do. But if I don't wrap up soon, it's going to be too cold in here later. It's just the way of things here. So right away I'm seeing a dragon, very beautiful dragon, soaring up into the sky, almost like when birds hover over something over water, like birds of prey when they're fishing. They'll fly up over the water and hover there while they're getting a mark on the fish before they strike, right? It's very much like her as she pulls back her sword here. I'm also seeing a umbilical cord, a mammal in the womb with an umbilical cord. So that's, again, strikes me as that rebirth process, that hermit energy and fearless hanged one energy. And a hanged one, sometimes a rite of passage like this is a rite of passage from childhood into adulthood in many cultures. The child goes out and does a rite of passage and comes back an adult. It could be something like that too. Oh, wow. So I'm seeing two faces, like two faces of the same being. One is a dog and one is a woman. So you might be looking at what you're loyal to. Dogs often symbol loyalty. Humans have a relationship with dogs going way, way, way back. Yeah, it's like the mammal that I saw in the womb with the umbilical cord, it's like it just shifted into a birthed baby of some type, a baby animal, a baby mammal. I'm just going to say, I'm going to try to stay away from like life and death, abortion type. This transcends that. Okay, we're not talking about that here. We're talking about a baby. And its other aspect of self is another mammal, like an animal. And this is what it strikes me here is the light and dark horse. And also there's an indigenous to Turtle Island idea that's embraces the same thing, the light and dark wolf, the white and dark wolf within. Which one you feed is the one that will become strongest within you. So do you want to feed fear and paranoia and covetousness and ego and I don't want to create something unless I know it's going to be a smash, right? Like that's a lot of stuff I had to do too, starting this channel. And being comfortable with like, if it never goes viral, are you just going to abandon it? Because that's ego-based. That's not doing it for creative reasons, right? And in indulging my creative fire. I was seeing a whirlpool, like a portal, like an energy drain, and I was seeing that for myself in meditation. So you might want to do some energy medicine or check in with yourself if you feel drained anywhere. That's going to be part of this inner process for you to try to help yourself rebalance your energy. and remove things that are draining you, that are not for you, that are not for your good. There's a song coming through. I can't remember who sang it. It's from the 70s. It's called Fox on the Run. It might be Sweet, the band Sweet. But look that up. That song might have meaning for you, Fox on the Run. And a fox is a trickster spirit. In many, many cultures is fox known as a trickster spirit, right? A celebrated trickster, okay? I don't malign tricksters when I talk about fox spirit. They deserve our respect. And then out of that whirlpool or portal that's sort of a drain, I'm also seeing a snake emerging. So you might be very deep in this process right now and going through a shape-shifting experience. And this reading is just confirmation and bearing witness to that. Yeah, I'm seeing like a laughing face now, like a laughing fox. That's very trickster. I feel very affectionate towards it though. And that's that medicine of laughter. Remember the jester and the trickster type figure and the ability to help us not get attached to things and take it all so seriously. It can help you with non-attachment if you can embrace a trickster spirit, right? Now I'm seeing something about R. Crumb. R. Crumb, the cartoonist, might have meaning for you. I love R. Crumb, but R. Crumb is not without controversy. He's a controversial cartoonist in some regards. He did a cartoon version of Genesis, the book of Genesis, and for some reason that has meaning here. R. Crumb. Cows have been coming through a lot. I'm seeing a cow here. But it's like a bull. It's a bull with horns. And I just saw a graphic online about a bull that leapt out of the bullfighting ring in Mexico and attacked and gored some of the crowd. And I really felt a lot of passion on behalf of that bull and for that bull. Bullfighting has a long tradition of defenders and people that defend it, especially in Spain, but I am against it, right? As many people are. If we're talking about respect for nature, what kind of it's not a fair, I don't know, bullfighting is not, it goes back to ancient times. I'll just try to refrain from saying anything else about it, but bullfighting is coming through. But that goes all the way back to like Crete and stuff, right? The island of Crete. I'm seeing a baseball. Baseball might have meaning for somebody here, the sport. I'm seeing the ball and the leather and the stitching and the way that a baseball is stitched. It's very, very visual right here. Something about baseball has meaning for you. And I'm also seeing it in my mind's eye in Spanish, which in Mexico anyways is baseball, but it's spelled like a Spanish word, but they adopted the word baseball because it's an American word, so they didn't change it into something else, but they spell it differently, so that might have meaning for some folks out there. Yeah, there's more coming through about baseball, because baseball, if I remember right, I don't follow baseball, But I feel like baseball is big in Cuba. Like, if I remember right, there's a lot of Cuban players, and the U.S. would weirdly get Cuban players to defect and come play baseball in the U.S. Is that right? Am I making that up? I feel like that's a thing. I don't know. Please correct me if I'm getting that wrong. But I feel like I have a memory for that baseball has a big following in Cuba. Yeah, now it's kind of going back into that dragon shape, although instead of a dragon, it's a bat. And now it's turning into Batman, the signal, like the light signal for Batman, the comic. And then now it's going back into a dog's face, like a little dog, a little guy, like a wiener dog maybe, or a chihuahua. Oh my gosh, it's very, very vivid. Somebody's dog spirit is coming through. Honestly, that's what I'm feeling like. Somebody that has a dog that's crossed over. This is a confirmation for you that this little guy is still with you. Oh my God, he is really coming through strongly. In fact, I think I might know whose dog this is, but I don't know that they would want to be named here. So I'm just going to say also that even if it's not for them, a dog spirit coming through can have meaning for many people here. A crossed over dog. Many people have spirit animals that are still with them, right? Especially if you believe in the soul and the concept of a soul. God, that's very touching. It must be something that we need right now because it's very direct to my heart, like really direct, like a loyal spirit, loyalty, a loyal little dog spirit. Oh my God, like the Fool. Wow, this is kind of blowing my mind. I just have to say, it's like our companion that comes with us and has our back and has the courage to be with us. The traditional Rider-Waite-Smith Fool card has a dog with them as a companion. Man, I have chills. That is so cool. And I saw someone's post the other day celebrating riot dogs, right? The dogs in the streets that side with the people. We have loyal spirits watching over us. This is so comforting. It really is comforting to see this little dog here. I don't want it to end. I just love it. And it's looking right at the Fool card. That is so cool. I just have chills. Really, really cool. There's a video, one of Bad Bunny's videos. A dog features really prominently in that. I can't remember which song. You might know the video if you know what I'm talking about. I don't really watch videos anymore, but occasionally I do. If it's a song I really like, I'll go find it on YouTube and watch the video. But there's one of Bad Bunny's songs has a dog spirit in it like this. And that feels meaningful to me on a personal level too. Just really comforting and needed. Okay, I'm going to share this because I think it's going to have meaning. It's not just for me because it's coming through here for this reading. When I was little and I was going through a really horrific abuse, I had a person in my life when I was very little, from age 3 until about 6, when my dad actually paid her off. It was his ex-wife. He ended up paying her to go away, basically. And she was very horrible to me. I don't want to say she was a horrible person, but she was very horrible to me, very abusive, very violent. I have a lot of traumatic memories of that time in my life. But she had a dog. What was that dog's name? Why am I blanking on its name all of a sudden? But it used to sleep with me. And I think it tried to protect me in a way. And I remember it would sleep in my bed with me. And I was often sick because I was neglected at that time in my life as well. My it was running crazy, and he was just trying to survive his own shit. And I was being abused by his wife, and it was just a bad time in our lives. And this little dog, it's going to drive me crazy that I can't remember her name, because she was very good to me and very sweet. And she would just groom me because she felt protective of me. And I remember I would wake up and she was just grooming me. My legs, actually. She would groom my legs. So this has meaning for someone, okay? It's a damn fucking intense memory that I have not thought about in a long time. Whew. Okay. I am going to go ahead and try to pull back out of that, because I could just sit here forever actually staring into that, and I don't need to do that. But because animal spirits were so strong, I'll pull an animal card to close the reading for us. Jeez. Whale and goat and bat. Bat came through the ball as well. Devotion, inspiration, creativity, abundance, impulsiveness, self-assuredness, generosity, optimism, and impatience. That's whale spirit. Goat, quick-witted, independent, initiative, opportunistic, stable, affluent, ambitious, and acquisition. And then bat, discretion, perception, transformation, hypersensitivity, ingenuity, talent, astuteness, artfulness, and effectiveness. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. I have chills. I just want to thank Dog Spirit for coming through so strongly like that, because it came through in a super profound way that I don't even fully understand. All right, thank you.